maybe what we have is a fintech perfect storm. What you have is the convergence of rising markets, certainly help to have the Dow and the S&P at all-time highs. You have key technologies like cloud and mobile maturing. And you have the coming of age of millennials.
When we look at disrupting the financial supply chain, which is one of the, I think as he put it, one of the last vertically integrated supply chain, and you look at the banking supply chain, by I mean vertically integrated, all of those services are in one place. So the question for disruption is how do you pick that apart? And we're not going to pick it apart and tomorrow the banks are going to fall down, okay? Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it doesn't matter. It isn't going to happen tomorrow, nor is MasterCard going to fall down tomorrow if we pick apart the supply chain. But we pick apart that supply chain and we take out commercial lending, we take out business lending, we take out payments, we take out the associated mobile pieces, we take out the data analytics piece. And so suddenly you've got this Lego set of building blocks that allows you to disaggregate the supply chain, and then how do you put that back together? So the issue to me about the API economy is that it's really key in the disaggregation of the financial supply chain. And what it does is it enables a tremendous number of startups to bloom. Because if you take a look at our company, we take one very small piece. We take international payments, we take it apart, we optimize it dramatically, we bring its cost down in the true internet fashion, because we don't allow things to be cross-subsidized. We don't let you lose money over here so you can make money over here with excess profits. We optimize this, and then because it's available via an API, we then put it back to smart aggregators who then have a whole range of financial services that they then offer to the customer. So to me, the key part of API, why does it matter, is one, it's let 1,000 flowers bloom. It disaggregates the supply chain, enables whole numbers of startups in ways that we haven't even thought about yet, and then ultimately provides a service back to the customer. And I think when you listen to people talk about APIs and verticalization, underneath there's a question. And that question is it all about making the banks better? Is that it? You're going to build a company, it's going to be nice, you're going to flog it to a bank, they're going to take it, their customers are going to be happier? Is that the objective of FinTech, or is the objective something else?
I think that the way we view this in banking is, we're a company that's been around for 203 years, right? We've seen a lot of evolution over time, and we continue to evolve, and we're looking constantly for how do we serve our customers better. I think different than what you were saying a moment ago, we're not looking to sort of subsume the whole ecosystem and say, well, gee, now that we're letting 1,000 flowers bloom, let's just go buy them all up, right? The whole idea from our perspective is how do we participate in that ecosystem? How do we make sure that we are creating opportunities for these companies who don't offer banking services, who don't deal with the sort of highly regulated environment that we deal with, to have access into the platform, and then understand, how can we all collectively use that to create a better experience for our customers, be they institutional customers or retail customers.
I think all of the innovation that is happening both by small and large institutions, by startups and developers, is hinging on the richness of the API. I think we have a ways to go. I agree with Chris. There's a ways to go in us opening up the ecosystem components and the infrastructure that's been laid, and that's part of the reason that I'm at MasterCard and we're building the API ecosystem for ourselves to then open it up, is to lend that to and make that available to all of the developers and startups that are looking to innovate on top, so they don't have to recreate the wheel, so to speak. They don't have to recreate all those connections. We can be the infrastructure provider, and that's what we're focused on.
Another thing that really happens when you start to have APIs in the platform and the ability to plug in, and people like MasterCard and Citi and others sort of making that available, it's not just the technical piece of it, though that's really important, right? The other thing that happens is you get far more diverse people starting to think about how to solve these problems, because you don't need a PhD in payments anymore if you've got Plaid, or you don't have to be someone who's spent a tremendously long time getting very deep in a particular space. You start to get a much more cross-fertilization of people who've spent years in the finance industry, and people who have spent years in the tech industry, and people who just have ideas about how they could make this a more seamless, more customer-friendly experience. And so I think, you know, part of what sometimes is missing from just the API dialogue is the fact that it's all the people who then come together around, well, gee, we're, you know, part of the City Mobile Challenge, or we're part of the, you know, MasterCard sponsored programs, and, you know, the cross-fertilization of those ideas. And so I just didn't want to miss that, because I think that is, as much as the technology, that's what's starting to fuel the kind of new developments that we're seeing in the space.
We had I think we had our first e-commerce transaction something like 23 years ago. Right, so not a new area for us for sure, and certainly mobile as well, whether it's on the phone via app or web. The opportunity for us is still tremendous, and for us, opening up our products and services via API makes it, just like Vanessa was saying, makes it that much more accessible for all kinds of people that don't need PhDs in payments certainly, and haven't spent, you know, 12, 13, 20 years in payments to think of new experiences, new fresh ideas of how to embed a payment into an application like an Uber. You know, a magical experience that puts payment in the background. Fantastic, right? I mean, that's ultimately the point, is to obfuscate all the complexities that we've built over the years to run payments securely and instantaneously around the world, to obfuscate all that and make it much more accessible to all kinds of institutions.
I come from a different world. I come from the world of small startups, even though I may be avuncular. And whether it's a consumer or a business, all of the funds start and end in a bank account. That isn't going to go away. That money's going to be there. But the API challenge is, how can you take share away from the larger institutions, whether they're Citibank or they're MasterCard? Because that's the whole startup mission, is to take that away.
This is about how do we all find a way to collaborate to sort of bring the best to what the world needs, because someone said, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the money movement and the financial institutions are core to, you know, so much of what goes on in the planet. And so, you know, we do think of it as something important to participate, not as an observer, but actively in, because we want that push. Well, I think, you know, everyone in the room is probably familiar with this. I think it's changed, and Mario can speak to this as well, over the last 10 years, right? People are much more broadly engaged with the ecosystem. I think, as I said before, both on the institutional side of our business, as Mike mentioned, and on the consumer side of the business. And, you know, we look for, you know, just I can speak on the investing side. I mean, we look for companies that we think have, you know, have the opportunity, have the idea, have the sort of notion of how can they do something better that's going to win in the marketplace, right? So we're not looking for companies so we can swallow them up. We're looking for companies because we think that lifting up that whole marketplace is actually better for everyone.